Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. We have a fascinating show today with my longest returning guest. The history of this show has been dotted with Anthony Roberts. I love Anthony Roberts for a variety of reasons, but one of those reasons is I'm probably a borderline sapiophile, and I really have a great appreciation for multidimensional intelligence. And put legs on that statement, and you've got Anthony Roberts. We're going to talk about steroid laws. Where did they come? Why do we even have them today? You know, the assumption is that laws are created to protect us. The illustration I gave in today's write-up is there became an increasing need to get people to drive slower and slower as automobiles became faster and faster. Hence, they discovered that 55 miles an hour, a collision wasn't always fatal. They made the 55-mile-an-hour law. It was federal. They got states to participate by offering to pave their roads if they put the 55-mile-an-hour sign. But the ultimate reason was they didn't want as many fatalities in car accidents. That's a good reason to have a law. But now when you look at anabolic steroids, the criminalization of these drugs, why? Why is it? And especially juxtaposed in today's environment where guys who want to be girls and girls who want to be guys can get these hormones. Apparently, they no longer carry any risks. We're going to get deep into this today, and you're going to be fascinated when you learn the history of anabolic steroid laws in just a little minute. But before we do that, I have to, of course, thank our title sponsor, and that's Legendary Foods. The Tasty Pastry was designed to replace the Pop-Tart, and it's gone so much further than that. 20 grams of high-quality, high-leucine protein, less than 1 gram of sugar, 5 grams or less of net carbs. The new Red Velvet Tasty Pastry is out of this world. If you eat one, you will never want to be without them. They're replacing protein bars. I got to be honest with you, because they're not loaded down with all that fiber. Everybody's starting to realize, oh, my God, all that fiber, it's just not working out. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to get yours today. Or if you're a cheapskate, listen during the commercial breaks and you will hear a secret word. And all you have to do is email that secret word to onair@superhumanradio.net and you'll be entered to win one of several boxes we're giving away a day right now. But please, if you've won before, sit on your hands. Let somebody else have a chance to win. And without further delay, how you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing great, Carl. How are you?
Always good to have you. So before we get into this, I have to read something. Natalie Kapitsky, who helped me produce the show, the video portion of the show, she sent me this write-up, and I thought, I've never talked about you and your pedigree. I've just brought you on and assumed everybody knows about you because you've been a stalwart within the supplement and fitness industry for decades now. So I'm going to read this. And when I read it myself, I thought, my God, I'm doing Anthony such a disservice by not saying this. Anthony Roberts holds bachelor's degrees in both English and philosophy with a minor in women's studies. He is the author of 3 books on the subject of performance-enhancing drugs. He is a staff writer at Muscle Evolution magazine, a member in good standing of the Society of Professional Journalists. Hold that card up. Hold that card. Don't you have the card right there?
Yeah.
I bet a lot of people that we read aren't. Anthony is also a certified trainer and coach and a professional member of the National Strength and Conditioning Association. At the young age of 17, he won silver medal in martial arts at the Garden State Games, black belt division, then began playing rugby at the age of 18 after 4 years of captaining Seton Hall's team and 2 appearances in the Collegiate National All-Star Games. Anthony moved to New Zealand. Wow, wanderlust. To New Zealand to play for a club in the first division. Upon his return, he continued playing for first division men's clubs while spending a season as an assistant coach at a federal military college. Didn't know that. Followed by 3 seasons as head coach, leading to a national ranking of 13 and 2 first division championships. Anthony has worked in the dietary supplement world for the past decade, where he has introduced new ingredients to the market, formulated numerous products, sourced and sold raw materials, and provided consulting services to companies that range in size from small startups to some of the largest in the industry. I say you are the greatest formulator in the world, by the way, because I know all the things that you've done, and no one has ever told me that I have to call you that, by the way. But there's one thing that's missing here that I guess a lot of people don't know, but some of us close to you. You are a member of Mensa.
Yeah.
Where's your card? You have a card for that? You have a Mensa card?
Yeah.
So for people who don't know what Mensa is, what is Mensa?
That card gets me 1% off at Applebee's.
At the B. Catch Anthony at the B.
About it.
But in order to qualify for Mensa, you have to have an IQ of what and above?
You have to be 2 standard deviations above normal. So that starts at 132.
That's beautiful. Okay. So we've established this. I wanted to do this because I think a lot of people don't have any idea about any of this. And I thought it was important to establish some credentials that I've missed out on for years. So you have been a vocal opponent of anabolic steroid laws forever. You've talked and written extensively about this. And recently you wrote an article that appears on musculardevelopment.com, and I have a link to it for those of you who want to read it. Anabolic steroid pioneer Dr. Michael Dulnig and the evolution of steroid laws. If you go to shrnetwork.biz/ there's all caps, AASLAWS, AAS laws. You can read the article. The article is so well written that I guarantee that if you read the first paragraph, you won't be able to stop reading it, because that's how Anthony writes. So start from the beginning with Dulnig. Tell the story about that you started out in the article.
Okay, sure. So I'm going to tell it exactly the way it was told to me. So Dr. Dulnig, he was a doctor at the time. I believe he was living in LA. He invited all of his friends over and for a party, and he had chosen this day specifically, and he was in the midst of a huge long-term project that involved the use of anabolic steroids in HIV and AIDS related wasting. And he as the party went on, he greeted everyone. They talked. He was excited about his work. And at the end of the party, he went upstairs and he died by suicide.
He laced his yogurt that he ate before bed with an opioid, right? Demerol or something like that.
Yeah, was it Demerol? It might have been, Demerol, and I think maybe in something else. But laced his yogurt, his favorite yogurt, and he just laid down and died.
So why did he do this if he was on the brink of actually? And by the way, anabolic steroids and growth hormone have saved a lot of people, both from HIV and cancer, because most of the people today from these diseases die of muscle wasting. And if you can preserve muscle, you can preserve their lives longer. But why did he kill himself at that moment in time?
He had contracted HIV. So he's HIV positive, and so that wrecks your immune system, right? You're open to any sort of, and that's how most people pass away from AIDS, right, or HIV. They contract pneumonia. He happened to get I believe it was an opportunistic infection,
right,
that caused rash, like a skin rash that was like intensely burning and itchy, and eventually blindness.
Yeah, eyes. It attacks the eyes. It goes in through the optic nerve, gets to the brain, and you're gone. You die from it. I mean, it's certain death. It's just when. No.
Oh yeah, no. It's not. Yeah, you don't come out the other side. So just consider that. He got to have a party.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
And dying, in agony and blind. So,
okay. So right around the time that AIDS patients started to use anabolic steroids, we had something else going on. In fact, our current president played a large role in what was going on. Joe Biden sat in front of Congress and said he would have been a pro baseball player, but he refused to take anabolic steroids. Do you remember that moment in the news?
Yeah, he has an expansive opinion of his athletic career. Yes.
Also,
yeah, then, I mean, not to,
no. Go ahead. Good. No. Finish what you were going to say, and then I'll play.
His career at Syracuse as a law student, he has an odd memory of. He thought he was at the top of his class, but as it turns out, he was in the lower half, and was actually suspended for plagiarism one semester. So I don't know that he's remembering. I mean, it's a gloss, right? We're all getting older. You remember the glory days a bit differently.
Right.
He just remembers them a lot differently.
In fact, what I was interrupting you to say was you were the first person before anyone in the media that pointed out, because we all had such disdain for his position on anabolic steroids, we kind of put a target on his back a lot earlier than the mainstream population. And you were the first one to point out that he lied about his collegiate success. You were the one who pointed out that he was not in the top of his class, but in the bottom of his class before anyone in the media even covered it, because you scrutinized him earlier after that performance of his about how he would have been a pro baseball player, but anabolic steroids.
Yeah, it's kind of weird too, because he remembers his football career, quite fondly. It was like 160-pound. He wasn't going to anywhere with that. Yeah, and I was kind of on top of him from the time he was vice presidential candidate, and that's when I started digging into him and finding out. He didn't get caught for plagiarism once. He got caught plagiarizing someone on the campaign trail. His first run for. So he's just not an honest guy, or at least he wasn't an honest guy. I don't know if he is now. What we're seeing now is, he was known as a Democrat that was tough on crime. That was his shtick.
Right.
So now he's reversed that. But the irony is that he's saying, well, we need, criminal justice reform. We need all these things. And I think we do. But what we're doing is reversing his policies.
Right.
His policies, these, Omnibus Crime Acts and steroid laws were him. So it's weird. Right. I'm not taking a political position or partisan position. It's just bizarre to elect a president to undo the work that he did while he was senator. Right.
So it's kind of like presidential Munchausen by proxy. Like he created all these problems, and now I'm here to save you. Now I'm going to fix them all. But anyway, getting back to the history of anabolic steroid laws, early on, you really made your bones on making friends in government agencies and knowing things. And a lot of the articles you wrote, you had very, very sound, valuable information before anyone in the industry did. And I think it's interesting that you early on also said, like, the DEA doesn't want to be bothered with steroid laws. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, well, the DEA doesn't. So this is the reason why. If you bust the biggest steroid dealer in the country, or let's talk the biggest steroid dealer ever, right? You're talking about less than $10 million, right? In terms of like what kind of assets you can seize. Operation Raw Deal was the largest steroid bust of all time. I think they had 143 indictments and like something like $6 million in cash seized. If you're the DEA and you bust 146 cocaine dealers, you're going to have triple, quadruple, I don't even know how many times that amount of money. So it doesn't make sense because these are government agencies. The DEA is a government agency. They have a budget, and to an extent they get to eat what they kill. So those seizures, those forfeitures, that's how that works.
So what was the impetus? Why did what was it really? Because sports, we got to level the playing field. It's not fair in sports. Why would the government even be involved in that?
So in the case of some of these, for example, so if you look at the three biggest steroid busts of all time, that'll be Operation TKO, which was Tokyo Labs. They weren't interested in steroids at all. They were interested in ketamine, right? That's what Steroid Labs, Tokyo Labs was selling primarily. And that's what they were going after. They just happened to also be selling steroids. That led them to Operation Gear Grinder, right? Which was like a dozen hanger-on companies that were operating in Mexico that were just easy to sweep up. So I think Operation TKO was, I want to say 2003, Gear Grinder was 2005, and then Operation Raw Deal was 2007. And they really haven't topped any of those in over a decade, I don't think. But yeah, some of it was just happenstance. Some of it was there for the picking. And one of them was going after a completely different drug.
So why was it such, and we forget that Patrick Arnold had introduced some of the Andro products early on, Mark McGuire, hitting home runs, Barry Bonds, and then even some of the Olympic athletes, Flojo and the Balco thing. Why was the government so set on criminalizing anabolic steroids when hell, simple ADHD drugs are still being abused by athletes every day?
Yeah. So, ADHD drugs are really interesting, right, with athletes, because once we started being able to travel across the country and athletes were competing, for example, baseball is the real example here, competing in a different time zone, sometimes a doubleheader and a game the day before, that's when greenies came, right? That's when they started all abusing amphetamines. Right. But with, I lost my place. I was so excited to talk about greenies.
No, but you when I said that they're still abusing ADHD drugs today, and we don't see the government going after them the way they went after anabolic steroids.
So the government started going after steroids back in the 80s, right? And the reason was Ben Johnson got caught doping at the Olympics, even though Carl Lewis was busted like 4 times for banned substances. Right. This guy, this Canadian guy, was cheating and we weren't, and so it became an easy. It was a layup for politicians to get involved in and say, all right, we're going to make this illegal. Or they thought it was a layup. The first thing they tried to do was that, I don't know why, this is mind-boggling. They heard about D-ball, as everyone has. They heard about D-ball. They tried to make it Schedule 1. And they paraded some DEA guys out to a hearing. And the DEA guys said, listen, there's criteria to schedule a drug, and this meets literally none of them. So the senators at the time, they said, well, how about Schedule 5? And the guy basically said, no, I said it meets none of them. So,
Right.
and Schedule 5 is the most sort of mild of the schedules, and Schedule 1 is besides marijuana, which is absurd, Schedule 1 is generally the harshest drugs. So,
Heroin, stuff like that.
yeah, drugs for which there's no accepted medical use, and the risk is very high.
Right.
Plus marijuana. So they had a second set of hearings, and that was when they finally said, what the DEA guy actually said was, you're do it yourself. In other words, the DEA is empowered with the ability to schedule. But since anabolic steroids don't meet any of the criteria, this guy said to Congress, you're going to have to schedule them legislatively because they don't fit. So Congress did that. It was right after Ben Johnson, and everybody was kind of up in arms that this guy could cheat or whatever. And get away with it. And a quick note on that race is generally called the dirtiest race of all time. I think in the finals there were 10 sprinters or 8 sprinters, and all but I think 3 had been busted for violating some kind of doping rule. So was he cheating? It seemed like he was kind of doing what everyone did.
Yeah, he was leveling the playing field, if nothing else. So are there any other instances where professional sports dictates medical procedure and intervention?
Oh, besides steroids?
Yeah.
No, I mean, like you had mentioned Patrick Arnold and Andro in 2003, we were in that sort of home run era of baseball. And again, they had hearings and they started going after what they called, what we call pro hormones. I think they called them precursors, which is not technically right, and neither is pro hormone, but they went after them, and they came out with a new list and new criteria. And funny enough, the new criteria said that the compound didn't have to be anabolic. So you could actually have an anabolic steroid scheduled that wasn't anabolic, and I think this is like the most sort of disgusting form of dishonesty and academic fraud. The DEA was testing Andro, and they were trying to prove that it was anabolic, and they couldn't. Anyone who's used Andro knows that's basically correct. It's not.
Right.
And they were trying to prove it, and they said, we couldn't. So can you just make this illegal? And also, by the way, take away the requirement that we need to prove that it's anabolic. So it's like you couldn't follow the rules, change the rules. That's not the way the law is supposed to work. You're not supposed to change it, midstream because it's not working. The scientific conclusion is these aren't anabolic, not change the law.
Right. Right. So if you had a guess of all the years that you've looked at this, what is it about politicians that they hate masculinity and strength so much that, because look, every politician up there today is like, yes, we're all for, you want to be a woman, you can be a woman. We'll use these here harmful, dangerous drugs that baseball players can't use, but we'll use them to make you a woman or make you a man. What is it? Where does the disdain come from? Increasing performance, increasing appearance, and being more masculine, that makes them obviously be subjective about their decisions, as you point out. Like, it's not even anabolic. Well, can't we make it illegal anyway? Because all these big, burly, strong people are using it. And, what is it?
It's one of those things where, to me, the drug, right, the substance, whatever it is, it really doesn't care why you're using it. It has the same effect. So someone who says I'm taking testosterone, because I feel like I need to hit more home runs, the drug doesn't make a moral distinction and say, well, this person is undergoing, is transgender, so I'm not gonna cause elevated, LDL cholesterol because the person's motivation is different. Right. You get effects and you get the same side effects. and obviously dosing and compounds are going to matter, but the moral side of it doesn't seem to make sense to me. Because again, it's not. I don't think it should be Congress's place or anyone's place to tell us what we could put in our bodies or why the motivation for putting it in our bodies is incorrect. But at the same time, I don't think that it should be, the law should be motivational based when it comes to a chemical, right? Chemicals aren't good and they're not bad. It's however you use them, like a lot of things, like the internet.
Right.
It's good, bad, depending on how you use it. Words, they're good or they're bad, depending on how you're using it. And as far as, looking at this sort of Congress going after, I guess, like the normative gender constructs and saying this, this is fine, that's not fine. I don't think that's what they're experts in. I don't think they should be. I don't think they should even weigh in on any sort of anything that has to do with that.
No, I agree with you 1,000%. There's a lot of things that the government shouldn't have their hands in. But and going back to professional sports, there are organizations that have jurisdiction. You got WADA, you got all these different organizations. They make the rules that apply to professional athletes and Olympic athletes. And it should stop there. The government shouldn't become an arm of WADA and now criminalize these drugs in non-competing athletes. I mean, I'm an old guy. I take testosterone. I've been on HRT. Every couple of years, I have to sign up for a newsletter or fight for my right to continue to use testosterone because I'm an old guy and I want to stay vital and strong for as long as I can. But the flip side is, if I say, hey, I'm a man, I identify as a woman and I want to be a man, I want testosterone, they'd be like, oh yeah, sure, that's good. That's a, I mean, it's like kind of, everything has gotten crazy. There is no critical thinking evidence in any of these decisions that the government gets involved with anymore. Well,
yeah, I mean, even looking at the third Anabolic Steroid Control Act, right? So that was right after J.C. Romero, not to bring up Patrick Arnold again, but J.C. Romero tested positive for 6-oxo, and the senator from his state, all of a sudden started introducing this anti-steroid legislation. So there's really never been a time where, with the speed limit, right? With the speed limit where they said, oh, there's all these auto deaths, we have to get a handle on this. We have to set this speed limit. We have to set a drinking age. We have to do all these things. And that's going to result in less deaths. There was no point where they said anything to that effect. They just sort of said, which way the wind's blowing? All right, let's go. Let's all be on board with that. And it's, again, I don't really care what somebody wants to use, specifically steroids or anything. I don't care what they want to use them for. I think it's their personal choice. That's just not an area. That's not the business of, I don't think, the legislative branch.
It's not.
To make choices.
It's not. And in the end, it's your own business, because right now a woman can go out and subject herself to very, very risky plastic surgery, butt implants, boob implants, have all sorts of body fat ripped off of her and die on that table. It happens all the time. And there's no legislators saying, hey, we need to put a stop to this elective plastic surgery because people are putting themselves at risk. But, performance and appearance enhancing drugs is what they are now, because there's a lot of people on steroids who aren't competing at anything, but they want to look strong. They want to look big and muscular. They want to feel good. And it's like, if I can spend $18,000 on high risk, maybe I'll die on the table plastic surgery, and the government doesn't have anything to say about that, then get out of my way if I want to stick a needle in my ass.
Yeah, no, I think that's what it comes down to for me. It doesn't, for me, and that's kind of why it's almost, that's why I focused on, Dr. Dolnig. He was, there's really no better subject, right? This is a guy who is doing research into anabolic steroids, trying to prolong lives, and the government was coming along and saying, yeah, you know what, we're going to make these illegal. We're going to make it so doctors can't prescribe them to people who are going to die without them. And and again, it's the way the wind was blowing, because in the 80s, you know, there was no, the politicians didn't care about the gay community. They couldn't care less.
Yeah, because now they want their votes. Now they want their votes now.
Now, of course, the same politicians are running on, or, they're sort of promoting this inclusive platform. And it's like, look, if you believed that, you would have believed that. I don't not believe something I believed 20 years ago.
Right.
There's nothing that I believe now that I didn't. I was doing this 20 years ago, and so to have this huge, 180, change of heart, it doesn't sit right with me. It doesn't seem authentic.
One of the things we have to do besides election refinement, the process of election laws and so on and so forth, is we have to do away with something that few people know. It's called sovereign immunity. It's a law. If you're an acting official of a state, of a federal government, and you do something and you're found out to have done it dishonestly, for the wrong reasons, or your decisions hurt people, sovereign immunity protects you. You say, no, I was a congressman, I was a senator then. You can't sue me for that. We do away with sovereign immunity, we'd actually have the ability to take politicians to task, not for everything they do, but for the things that count, like all the people who died of AIDS that would have had prolonged lives had they had legal access to these drugs. I got to plug your article again. Oh, again, I'm sorry. Go.
No, I was going to say that's exactly the point. Is that this isn't this isn't sort of an artificial hypothetical. This is literally the laws came around at that time, and literally they immediately arrested a doctor that was working with HIV positive men in Los Angeles. So these aren't hypotheticals. These aren't ideas of, oh, what if this would have happened? No, this happened and people died. And, and now for the president to be one of the guys that catalyzed that. I hope he did have a change of heart. That's what I'll say. I hope he did have a change of heart.
I don't think he has. I don't think he has the change of heart. I think it's whoever's feeding him the information at the time right now. But that's another story. Look, the article is called "Anabolic Steroid Pioneer Dr. Michael Dulnig and the Evolution of Steroid Laws." You can read it at shrnetwork.biz/AASLAWS, and that AASLAWS is all caps. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back with more of Anthony Roberts. Stay tuned. Do you remember those delicious toaster pastries you had when you were a kid? You know, the rectangular sugar-filled snacks? Well, guess what? Legendary Foods has just made low-carb toaster pastry. This is the first of its kind, and honestly, these things are amazing. They have 3 to 4 net carb, less than 1 gram of sugar, and 9 grams of protein. You can eat them right out of the wrapper or lightly toast them. The only question is, which flavor, strawberry or brown sugar cinnamon? They're available at eatlegendary.com and Amazon. The power of light can be truly life-changing and an important element for every superhuman. Because of this, I want you to experience the power of award-winning Saluma light therapy. Saluma utilizes NASA research technology to improve health at the cellular level and is cleared by the FDA to effectively treat a variety of pain, muscle and joint conditions, as well as facial wrinkles and acne. Our entire team here at Superhuman Radio uses it. Its innovative shape-taking design allows for easy placement anywhere on the body. Choose from 13 different models. For an exclusive listener discount, go to shrnetwork.biz/Saluma. That's CELLUMA. And use code SHR10 to save 10% off of one of these award-winning devices, Beacon. Whether your goal is to build muscle or burn fat, you'll find everything you need at Redcon One. Need help getting a good night's sleep? Try Fade Out, or the most popular pre-workout supplement on the market today, Total War. Sign up for their new Transformation Challenge and win $10,000. Or shop for apparel that people at the gym will know that you are serious about your training. Need a testosterone booster that works? Check out Boomstick. Whatever you need, you'll find the best quality supplements on the market at Redcon One. go to redcon1.com. That's REDCON, the number 1.com, or go to superhumanradio.net and click the Redcon 1 banner ad today. Getting a massage post-workout is a proven strategy to facilitate better recovery. Getting to massage therapists can be difficult and expensive, especially in these times. The solution is the Meteor, a heated massage ball from Milestorm. Reduce pain and soreness and expedite recovery with the Meteor's research-backed vibration settings and therapeutic heat. It's convenient for travel and works on any body part. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Meteor and use code SHR15 for 15% off and free shipping if you buy 2 or more. Start recovering better today. Are you ready to change the way you age? Of course you are. That's why you're here. Juvicel is a new first-of-its-kind dietary supplement that includes 10 key research-backed ingredients shown in studies to support lifespan. Things like resveratrol, fisetin, quercetin, pterostilbene, sulforaphane, turmeric, all in a single dose. You may have some of these ingredients already, but Juvicel is the first to combine them all into a single product to support your lifespan. It's vegan, non-GMO, and sustainable. Live better longer with Juvicel. Go to shrnetwork.biz/live better. Use code SHR and save 20% off today.
This is the Superhuman Channel, doing reps with the weight of the world.
Welcome back. Gotta hit my microphone. We're talking with Anthony Roberts today about the evolution of anabolic steroid laws. So, in and around this time, all this stuff is coming together. Pro hormones or designer steroids or whatever you want to call them really made a big surge, right? There was this loophole. If you're using something that increases testosterone production, it's not testosterone. There were even some other amazing things. I remember, I want to say, I can't think of the name of the company. I don't want to give the guy's name, but you know, he had the methyltrianolone or dianolone. It was similar to the oral trenbolone. All these things that were like excluded from the steroid laws all of a sudden hit the market. Did any of those make it into the HIV community as like a Band-Aid, an alternative?
No, because you got to think at the time we were looking at, the HIV community in the late 80s, early 90s. Pro hormones had just come out like in the mid 90s from what I recall. And what Congress did in the first Steroid Act was they basically took the 27 steroids that were on the market and said, all right, don't use these. They didn't really put much effort into it because there wasn't really robust debate on either side. They when there's no opposition to a law and everybody wants to be the guy that signs it and wants to be part of the, on the winning team, or they don't debate it. So you get laws that are just terribly crafted, because I think it's that crucible of debate, right? That burns away all of the excess and leaves you with the pure law, how it should be. When you don't, you get the steroid laws that are ridiculous.
Do you think that the steroid laws will ever be revisited, or they're demonized now and they'll never, ever be, unchained from that early decision?
I think what we're going to see, the result of actually, and I think this is in the article, Dr. Dolnig was corresponding with various steroid manufacturers, and he was very, very smart. He was basically, the company that had, Anavar, right, at the time, oxandrolone. They were making it in 2.5, 5, or 10 milligram pills.
Right.
He's the went to them and said, no, 80 milligram pills. That's what you need. This is too weak. He was just brutal, and he was smart, and just, they didn't want to mess with him. He knew what he was talking about, and when he said, we need to do this, and he had the support of some people in the community, they said, all right, we should start looking into an 80 milligram pill. I mean, imagine a 2.5 milligram pill of Anavar. That's
I ordered Anadrol once from a website that's gone now, but you'll recognize the name Amps and Tabs. And he sent me Anavar by accident. I took 100 milligrams a day because I was like, this is for women. I'm gonna and I didn't really notice anything at 100 milligrams a day, but I was using a lot of stuff at the time, and would have been harder to tease out what was doing what. But I know, and even Dr. DePasquale spoke about the purported dangers of orals and hepatic stress. He said you can't say all orals are bad. Some are worse than others. And he said Anavar appears to produce no damage to the liver whatsoever in any dose.
Yeah, can't say. Well, that's the thing, right? I mean, I tend to not think anything's bad or good, in terms of compounds. I mean, if you're wasting, maybe you need Anadrol. It depends on the goal, right? I mean, what's the saying? If all you have in your toolkit is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So, the more you have in your toolkit, the more you understand the drugs or the reasons to use them. I mean, think about how many drugs are just talking about, the gender transitioning that you had brought up. You wouldn't give someone a toxic oral steroid, right? Something that doesn't make sense. There's different tools in the toolkit, whether we're talking about, home runs or transitioning or whatever. These are useful tools that should be available. To me, it doesn't matter what you use the screwdriver for. Just don't use it to hammer in a nail, or I'm going to think you're dumb, It's an audio problem here. Nope.
What about now?
Yep.
Hold on.
Yeah, now
okay. All right. Nelson Virgil.
Yes.
Virgil. He's been on the show a couple times, and he was a prominent figure in that period of time, wasn't he?
Yeah. He's. I actually interviewed him pretty extensively. So an interesting thing about this article, but you had referred to it as an article that I had written recently. I actually wrote it 2 or 3 years ago. So the magazine that I pitched, I was working with the editor, and it was an online magazine. It went under. And then I was working, I want to say I was working with a woman from Vice or somewhere like that, and she got fired, laid off. And it was this article was in limbo for years. But Nelson is one of the guys who helped me a ton with the article.
Right. Yeah, he's been a big advocate. Also, I think he was involved with, I don't know if it was that group in Dallas, but he was involved with some of the organizations that were trying to help men with HIV get access.
Does Houston sound correct? Houston, yeah. Because I know Dallas Buyers Club was Matthew McConaughey. That movie, which I didn't see, but I think Nelson actually was involved with the club. Houston. Yeah. No, the whole, that's the thing is that, you shouldn't have to smuggle drugs across the border to live. And the government shouldn't put you in that position. And to be honest, if you feel like you need hormones or you want hormones for some other reason, you're transitioning, you feel this way, then take them. That's not my business. And I don't want a government in that business. I don't want, a government in the business of deciding things that should be a personal choice at all.
Right. So before the show, we discussed briefly that I had communicated about 7 years ago with 2 Scandinavian scientists. Mm-hmm. And there was a great language barrier, and I tried to get them on the show, but they had successfully created and recreated homosexual rodents. The genitalia is influenced in the first trimester and put in the mechanics of the sprouting of the penis and so on occurs in that first trimester. But since the brain is the last thing to develop, the sexual preference portion of the brain is formed in the third trimester. And so if you have hormonal influences acting upon the fetus in the first trimester that influence, let's say, male genitalia, but then you have hormonal influences in the third trimester influencing sexual preference that produce attraction to men, you have a homosexual rodent. You have a rodent with a penis who prefers men. Or male rodents. And they did this twice in 2 separate studies. And they came away saying that the influences of environmental estrogens and androgens, xenoandrogens, xenoestrogens, phthalates, all this stuff, depending on when it's introduced into the formation of the baby, can play an influence on mismatched preference to genitalia, which I've always wanted to talk about this. But now, when we look at the backdrop of people saying, I feel more like a woman and I have a penis, I can understand it. It is actually your brain is wired that way. You can't. I don't think you've ever woken up in the morning, and I know I sure haven't ever woken up in the morning and thought, I wonder what it would feel like to have a penis in my mouth. Like, you don't think that way. It's not something that you would think about, or even if you did think about it, it's an absurdity, and you think, oh, that doesn't do anything for me. So you got to be wired different to want those things. And I think that anabolic steroids, there should be a softening of why I want to use steroids in today's environment where men want to be like women, so they're going to use androgen blockers and increase estrogen, and vice versa. Because if they're dangerous, then they're dangerous for those people too. So I think it's time for the community that embraces anabolic steroids for their performance and appearance enhancing benefits to start to hitch our wagon to this movement and say, hey, you know what? If that guy wants estrogen, if that girl wants testosterone, God bless them, because and by the way, I want it too, because I feel like I need that too. I think that should be a discussion today.
Yeah. So this is an area where the only tool in my kit is nothing. I don't actually know enough about homosexual rodents. I don't know. I don't actually know enough about sort of sexual orientation and that. But before we came on, I went on the GLAAD website, and I told you this. I sort of tried to get the terminology correct.
Yes.
Because if there's a preferred way to address these things, like in good faith, that's how I want to address them.
Right. Because you want to make progress. You want to discuss. We need to discuss this stuff. The idea that we're being shut down from even discussing it is a big problem in and of itself.
Well, yeah, it is a problem. And so for me, right, so I'm not interesting at all. I'm a straight white guy. It's important to me to at least put forth an effort and say, all right, let me figure out how I can say these things, right? Because we have to be speaking the same language, or it's unintelligible, right? It's Tower Babel. How can I address these things and not be offensive? And I would say this to someone who I'm offending, with drop me a DM and tell me why I'm offensive, and I'm totally willing to listen and engage in that dialogue. But when people shut off dialogue and they just say, "Oh, you don't know because you're ignorant," it's like, well, what was it, Aristotle, right? Or it might have been Plato, but the bad man is, the good man has to be his teacher, right? If I'm doing something that's wrong, it's your duty to explain it. Right. And I think that dialogue is important. And I do think the community should be together. I mean, in the beginning, the HIV community, the homosexual men that were using anabolic steroids were closely knit and a part of the bodybuilding subculture in Venice.
Right.
So why there was a divergence, I'm not quite sure. But these goals are aligned. So even if there was a divergence, and even if there was a good reason for it, which I'm not entirely certain that there is, or why there would be this artificial construct of a barrier between the two uses for these drugs, I think that those walls should be broken down.
I agree 1,000%. We're going to take our last commercial break, but before we go into it, I just want to plug the article. You've got to read the article. The article is fascinating. The article is called Anabolic Steroid Pioneer Dr. Michael Dolnig and the Evolution of Steroid Laws. And you can read it at shrnetwork.biz/AAS/LAWS. And those are all caps. AAS for anabolic androgenic steroids, LAWS for laws. Stay tuned. Right back with more of Anthony Roberts. TaylorMade Health is focused on making sure you're able to perform and look your best. They are a leader in game-changing supplements and cosmetic products. Whether you want to increase strength, expedite recovery, facilitate soft tissue repair, or reduce deep wrinkles, TaylorMade Health has you covered. TaylorMade Health is also the home to Dr. Seed's products such as BPC, BPC Plus, and the Chill Pill. All of my listeners can now get 20% off their first order with code TRY20. That's TRY20. This code can even be used on subscription orders. Visit shrnetwork.biz/try20 today and use code TRY20 for 20% off your first order. Beacon. Folks, I'm pleased to announce that Pure Nootropics is now carrying the antioxidant alpha-lipoic acid in its bioidentical natural form as R-Ala. R-Ala provides protection in many areas and has even been shown to promote weight loss. Check out the interview I did on episode 2608 back in October to learn more. Our friends at Pure Nootropics have been bringing you great products and deals since 2013, and they have another one with R-Ala. Go to shrnetwork.biz/pure and use code SHR30 for a whopping 30% off. Level up. Go Pure.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
As a listener of this show, you know how important your gut is to your overall health. Bioptimizers has a potent product to heal and repair your gut unlike anything else. It's called Leaky Gut Guardian. It's powered by patented IGY Max, an egg-based protein that enhances gut health, reverses antibiotic damage, and strengthens your immune system. Available in 2 delicious powders, vegetarian vanilla and chocolate carnivore. Simply mix it with your favorite beverage. Repair your gut and power up your immune system risk-free and save 10% off. Go to shrnetwork.biz/leaky gut. Don't delay. Fix your gut today. TaylorMade Health is focused on making sure you're able to perform and look your best. They are a leader in game-changing supplements and cosmetic products. Whether you want to increase strength, expedite recovery, facilitate soft tissue repair, or reduce deep wrinkles, TaylorMade Health has you covered. TaylorMade Health is also the home to Dr. Seed's products such as BPC, BPC Plus, and the Chill Pill. All of my listeners can now get 20% off their first order with code TRY20. That's TRY20. This code can even be used on subscription orders. Visit shrnetwork.biz/try20 today and use code TRY20 for 20% off your first order.
You're listening to the Superhuman Channel. Don't hate us because we feel good.
Welcome back. So, Anthony, what is the goal of the article? What do you really want people to come away learning?
Well, yeah. So I want people to have an idea, sort of where these laws come from. I mean, obviously, you can't write that article and you can't read that article without having a degree of admiration for guys like Michael Dolnig. But yeah, I want them to sort of understand where these laws come from. They don't come from a place of, the speeding laws, right? They don't come from a place of protecting.
They're not altruistic. Yeah.
I mean, you look at these hearings, right? I have a quote from the hearings in there. The DEA, the FDA, the DOJ, the AMA, so the American Medical Association, they all opposed steroids becoming Schedule III drugs, all of them. So if Congress was trying to help us, and Congress is not, they're not scientists or doctors, they're majority lawyers. So when it comes to science, I don't trust lawyers. I don't really, I don't trust doctors with the law. I wouldn't go to a doctor for legal advice. I'd go to a lawyer for medical advice. And when they ignore
great point.
Problem.
Right. That's a great point. That really is. Yeah, I hope things change. I really do. We're seeing it right now on the peptide side of the industry as well now. All these organizations are pushing to have certain peptide. The FDA is looking to have peptides removed from being prescribed by doctors that have been prescribed by doctors. Thymosin alpha-1 was just removed because people were using it for COVID and having success. It's like, oh, no, we can't have that. Boom. So now compounding just can't do it. What's that?
It's a turf war, right? It's this is our turf. You see it. It's funny. You even see within right? So you could look at board certification, right? Chiropractors will be like, oh, you're not board certified chiropractor. You're a physical therapist. You can't do back manipulations. Everyone's staked out their own little piece of turf, right? You know, if you've passed the bar in New York, you have to pass it again in New Jersey, right? Because turf, right? It's like, you know, everyone's got this tenuous grip on this little piece of real estate that they consider theirs. And it's holding us back. It really is, you know, and everybody's fighting tooth and nail, fighting to the death to protect it. And that's not how you move forward.
Yeah. Listen, thanks for being here today, brother.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for reading the article.
Yeah, I'm telling you again, you got to read this article. It's Anthony is such an amazing writer that he can take very mundane topics and make them pull you in with fascinating stories and tangential jump-off points. And Anabolic Steroid pioneer Dr. Michael Delnig and the evolution of steroid laws. SHRnetwork.biz/AASLAWS. All right, that's it for today. It's Friday. Unfortunately, it's raining, or I'd be out on the motorcycle. So maybe tomorrow I'll have some sun. I love riding. That's all I want to do. I want to get out of the studio. All right, brother. What's that?
I don't ride, but thanks for having me on.
All right, see you later, Anthony. And we'll see everybody next week. We have great shows all week next week. Don't miss them. Share these shows, please. Share them with your friends, and see you later.